welcome to Catch and Go. It's a blessing to come to you today and bring you a special telecast and a special report. As I've been saying to you on my last couple of telecasts, and since last year, I've been talking to you about what the Lord has been speaking to me for the last 12 full seasons. I want to be able to explain to you exactly everything that's about to happen. And matter of fact, I have been explaining to you. What you need to pay attention is that if you go back a couple of telecasts, and even sometime last year, I said that earlier this year, there was a time when the Lord showed me his thumb, and he said, and he brought up out of my spirit the word acceleration. He was accelerating time. And then I did speak to you that I felt that all these years that the Spirit of God was quickening into my heart and into my spirit, that there will be 9 different plagues that he will, when the Lord brings judgment upon the earth. I want to say and I want to pronounce that judgment has come upon the earth and against mankind. Even though in my next few telecasts, you will hear me speak from a chapter in which I will talk about many things, including the global collapse that we're already in now. We're in a global collapse. But God is raised up the bar. And since the time that I explained and I brought this telecast and said that the Lord showed me his thumb, things begin to accelerate. Now, this is a special telecast because back in the year 2008, the Lord began to take me into visions and into dreams and begin to explain to me all the events that will lead to the final battle of Armageddon. There is a list of things here, and there are quite a few pages here of all the things that the Lord has been speaking to me for the last 12 years or more. To be quite honest with you, I haven't shared all the things which are written in or typed out in these pages. But I want to point out to you that I just finished a 5-part series on what is about to happen and why you need to get ready, because God has raised up the bar and things are beginning to intensify, and the Lord has accelerated things. Now listen to this. Just recently in my last telecast on this 5-part series, which I really don't want to mention to you yet until it comes out. And actually, to be quite honest with you, you're going to find that I'm talking a lot much slower in these 5 parts to this one chapter in which I've saved for so long. And I said why that chapter got held on to not having me release or speak from that chapter, but did tell me to speak from another chapter to line it up with the chapter in which you will listen to those 5 parts that I will bring and I will release sometime next week. And also why from that verse in which you will listen to next week, it is a divine link and divine connection to 5780. But why am I talking to you today? And why am I bringing this special telecast? Because in July 15, 2009, I said to you that there was an article that came out, on July 15, 2009, showing that Euphrates River was completely dry. That was the Euphrates River. I also mentioned to you, by the way, that there were other things that I wanted to talk to you about in my telecast. And one of them is that I said to you that the Lord has been taking me into dreams, into vision, and also in my time in which I spend time with him, he begins to show me, okay, this mosquito, this bug, or this type of bug or mosquito, or like a bee which stings you, okay? And when it stings you, it literally causes you to drop dead. This is why I'm bringing this telecast and this special report to you today from the upper room, amen. And I want to share with you what's happening. This was back in November 27, 2015. There it is, right on, you can see it. What I said in my last telecast and in that 5-part series, I said that the next big and great epidemic, the next great pandemic that will break out on the earth is right here along with the flu. I said that no one will solve or no one will find a vaccine shot for what is happening now. We are in a lockdown. Borders are shut. Things are closed. And many people think that we have finally come up with a vaccine to solve this present pandemic that has broken out. I have bad news for you. No one solves this whole thing. And it does come to a point where it seems that they came up with a vaccine. It is only for a short minute or for a short second, because even the World Health Organization and doctors and scientists and medical doctors around the world said that this virus that is broken up can come again. You are found to be cleared by this pandemic, this invincible enemy, as some like to call it, but it can actually come in the winter, in the summer, in the spring, or in the fall. No one solves it. But this one that just came out, that is coming out, it is deadly. And I made it very clear that many years ago, over 12 years or more, the Lord has been speaking to me through visions and dreams and in my prayer time. There has been several times. You had the Zika virus, you had the swine flu, you had different types of flu and different types of things. The last one was many years ago, called, before this pandemic, was called the Zika flu. Okay? Now this here is deadly. This one, I've been saying to you, no one will ever be able to contain this one. I believe that thousands and even in the millions will die of this deadly sting from this mosquito, this bug. It's like a bug or mosquito or bee that stings you and sucks away your flesh, sucks away your blood, and you instantly die. And I just said that in my telecast, and I've been saying it since 2008 all over the nations, and I just want to warn the whole entire world. I want to warn the whole world and all of the nations and all of the leaders in your government and people and leaders that are leaders in your government, that this being here, no one solves it either. Let's go to the Bible now. I will explain to you what the Bible says in Psalms 78, verse 44. We're going to start with there. We're going to pick it up from Psalm 78, verse 44. Now listen to what I'm saying to you. Turn their rivers into blood and their streams that cannot drink. Now let me read verse number 43. When he worked his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the fields of Zoan. Okay? Verse 43, Psalm 78. When he worked his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zoan. Verse 44, I read to you. Turn their rivers into blood and their streams they could not drink. He sent swarms of flies among them, which devour them, and frogs which destroy them. He also gave their crops to caterpillars, that's verse 46, and their labor to locusts. I want to talk about some things right now. I've been talking to you that the Lord has been telling me that the rivers will turn into blood. Okay, I said that lakes and rivers will turn into blood. I said to you that there was a breakout of the locust in East Africa and around the world. Locust has broken out, and you see that, amen, in verse number 46 of Psalm 78. You also see that he sent caterpillars to eat up your crops, okay? And then he sends a swarms of flies, bees, bugs, mosquito, okay? You may say a mosquito or in a bug is different than a bee, but let me tell you, the sting from each one does not equal to the level of this sting that this one will bring. This is a deadly bug, a deadly mosquito, a deadly bee that will break out anytime soon. And today, I have some news for you. But let me continue to read. It says in verse 47, Psalm 78, he destroyed their vines with hail, their sycamore trees with frost. He also gave up their cattle to hail and their flocks to fiery lightning. He cast on them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, indignation, and trouble by sending angels of destructions among them. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare their souls from death, but gave their life over to plague and destroyed all the four firstborns of Egypt, the first of their strength in the tents of Ham. Let me explain something to you. It says in verse number 49, it says, he cast on them the fierceness of his anger. You need to circle that. His wrath, his indignation, by sending trouble to them and troubling them by what? Sending angels of destruction among them. Listen, I need to tell you that I need to pronounce that judgment God has already begun to judge the earth, the nations, and mankind. I said that 2020 was a year in which was a time of separation. In my last telecast, I said that the Lord will put the righteous nations and the righteous people on the right and the ungodly in the wicked, ungodly nations and leaders to the left. You are seeing this happen. You see this bug, this was in November 27, 2015. And in my other last telecast, I said that there was the oil. Oil have basically crashed. Nations are in dispute. And though they have temporarily made an agreement, oil leads to the final battle of Armageddon. This was on February 21st, 2016. This was in the Singapore Strait Time, okay? And I want you to know that this is the next major pandemic, this deadly bug or mosquito. You can call it a bee or mosquito. Whatever it is, you need to understand God's wrath, like it says in verse 49, God's anger, God's is troubling, and God's indignation on the nations and on leaders who choose not to hearken to his voice. We are living in time where I will say to you that verse number 50 says in Psalm 78 that the Lord brought what? Plagues over their lives. I want you to know there are plagues that are coming upon the earth. You are going to see islands begin to sink. You are going to see the wrath of God, and he is giving certain hierarchy angelicals that are sent to bring destruction on the earth, to pronounce God's judgment. You are beginning to see that unfold more clear and clear. Why did I want to come today and do this special telecast? Because today Today, I want to show you an article that about 9 hours ago came out. Asia's murder hornets land in U.S. for the first time. It says Asia's murder hornets land in U.S. for the first time. Now, this article says that there is a deadly bug that is breaking out that landed in the U.S. And it came and it's from original place is Asia. Here is that deadly bug. I've said that the next pandemic or the next major plague or the next major judgment that the angel of destruction under God's assignment sends to the earth, it's right here. Now I want to give you a more clear picture. Here it is right here. I made it very clear on Catch and Go just last week. But I've been saying this since 2008. I hope that people will begin to believe in the Lord's servant. And I hope you tell your friends and say, we need to take the time and we need to subscribe to that YouTube channel and listen to Catch and Go. Listen, this has already started. I want to talk to you about several other articles. It was in the year May 2nd, 2020. This is in 2020. This is just, I think yesterday, because where I'm at is the 3rd today. On May 2nd, this was published by the New York Times. This is a U.S. newspaper, the New York Times. There it is the day I highlighted for you, May 2nd, 2020. Now there was an article back in January the 5th, January 5, 2002, okay, about 12:01 a.m., this article was posted on this newspaper called The Ledger. It says, beware of biblical mosquitoes. And then it was updated in June 17 of 2009. There it is. I want you to listen, The Ledger. You can go and Google it. You can go and print it out. And you see that it says here, beware of biblical mosquitoes. This was back in January the 5th, 2002. And then it was updated June 17 of 2009. Now, why 2009? Because this the Euphrates River on July 15, what year? 2009. When did this come out? When? 2009. Let me tell you that I want to say to you, but this was updated in 2009, excuse me, but it came out in 2002. This is 2009. I want you to know what is happening. Why am I bringing this special telecast? Because this has just broken out in the U.S. Where did it originally start? Where its original destination? Where did this first came out? In Asia. All right? Now, the New York Times, May the 2nd, 2020. The Euphrates dried up. That deadly bug, that deadly mosquito bug. And where did it originally come from? It says it landed in the U.S. for the first time. You need to understand why I've made this special telecast. And why you need to know that in this article, okay, this thing has broken out. And this thing is deadly. And I want you to know that you need to get ready. Now, God has been talking to me since 208 all the way to 220 and before that. For so many years, all the things that are right here. I have a list of things that I still haven't shared with you. So many things that you need to understand. But I want you to know that we are right now, these two things. This was Fox News. Fox News. U.S. News. This was back in 2015. The Lord had already taken me through several visions, several dreams, and even prayer. And I talked about it all over the nations, and people can tell you. And in my last telecast, in my closing, I talked about why you need to invest in gold. It's been a blessing to come to you and share with you from Psalm 78, verse 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 51. From 43, from the 43rd verse, all the way to verse 51, you see many things. He turned them over to a swarm of flies. He turned them over and destroyed them with frogs. He destroyed them with with frogs and with flies and bugs and mosquitoes and bees. He destroyed them with hail, and he destroyed them with their crops, with caterpillars. He brought judgment on Egypt. And how he did it was by sending and releasing an angel of destruction, to destroy the land of Egypt and to bring consequences upon their heads. I want to talk about also, let's go to Exodus chapter 8. I want to go to Exodus chapter 8, and I want you to listen to me from verse number 16. Exodus chapter 8, verse 16. So the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your rod and strike the dust of the land, so that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Verse 17, and they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with a rod and struck the dust of the earth, and it became lice on man and on beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Verse number 18. Now the magicians so worked with their enchantment to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice on man and beast. You are about to see that this deadly bug here, which I've been saying for many years around the nations, which was published in the U.S. Today on November 27, 2015, several of them have come out. Not anything more deadly than the one that the New York Times just published on May the 2nd, 2020. On May the 2nd, 2020, the New York Times published this article. And I want you to understand that there is another article, the Ledger. This is the one I want you to look at. The Ledger. I want to come up close to the camera again. Read it there. Beware of biblical what? Mosquitoes. It says that there it is, mosquitoes on front page news, and it isn't just the unusual pestilence, critters we are all worried about. It is the West Nile virus, which threatens Florida, birds, horses, cow, and possibly human beings. I want you to know that this was back in first published in the newspaper, The Ledger, on January 5th, 2002, and they updated in June 17 of what? 2009. 2009. Now, I said that oil will crash. I said that when I was in Singapore, and Singapore plays a significant part in the call in my life, in which God has called me to Asia, and to focus on the continent of Asia, and to travel throughout the South Pacific Islands all these years. That's why many have not heard of me in the U.S., though I am a U.S. citizen. I want you to know that here is what's happening. There is a new world order for oil industry. February 21, 2016. When I was in Singapore, in 2011, the Lord took me into several dreams and also in my devotional time, in my prayer time. And He began to speak to me what the future will be like and how the future ends. And all of the things that the Lord spoke have either come to pass or are happening at this moment. What is the next thing that you need to do? You need to listen to all of the 5 parts where I speak from Proverbs 13:22, which I didn't want to tell you, which I said in my earlier telecast, but I spoke using Genesis 37, the life of Joseph, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, and so on. We are in the moment in a global collapse. Can I give you an advice? No one solves this pandemic. No one solves this global crash. The only one that comes on the world stage is the Antichrist. And as this article says, a new world order. We are days away, months away from a one world government system and the mark of the beast. You need to know that God speaks now, but is intended for the future. But I want to give you a very simple, godly advice. What God has been talking to us here in the upper room. We are in a global crash. And God has been saying to us, son, tell your people and tell your loved ones and tell your family you need to go and buy rice and put rice away. You need to go and buy cans of food, whether it's cans of vegetables, cans of fruits, cans of beans, cans of corn. I want the whole world to know something. And I want all of humanity to know one thing. No world leader solves this chaos. No world leader, no nation, no country, not even Donald Trump. All of what you see and all of what is taking place leads to the final battle of Armageddon. There is a temporary agreement between certain countries and certain nations, including the U.S., when it comes to oil. I believe there were 20 other countries that came into agreement, and I call it a temporary agreement, because the only thing that they will fight for is who controls the oil in the bottom of the sea, and the oceans, and the sea, and different parts of the world. You see, the nations are battling for who controls oil, but the battle is the Lord and not man. God has designated and designed this thing, that this thing will end how? A battle for oil and an economic trade warfare. What is the thing that you need to do? We need to know that the entire world, before I close a few seconds from now, You need to know the whole world is in Genesis 37, 38, 39, 40, the time of Joseph. 7 good years, 7 bad years. 7 good cows, 7 bad cows. I am giving you a very simple godly advice. But you know what? Many will listen to me. Many will subscribe or have subscribed to my channel. And many will listen but will not hearken to the voice of God or even really take me seriously. God has pronounced judgment like he did, in which I read to you from Psalm 78, verse 43 to 51. He brought judgment, and he said what? He sent angels of destruction to bring destruction and bring the destructive things and to the people of Egypt. He didn't spare anyone. And what I want to tell you as well as Christian, because I've heard many preachers on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, says that this thing that is broken out, God will protect you. Listen, wake up and stop saying those things. God has announced judgment upon the earth, and he will not spare anyone who does not fully obey or who does not hearken to his voice. But these are times of separation. Separations of the nations, separations of the righteous from the nations, the ungodly nations, and from the wicked leaders and the wicked ones. We are in for a rude awakening. And remember, if you go all the way back to catch and go, I said, from the moment the Lord showed me his thumb, and he opened up my spirit and the word acceleration came up. The only thing God has done is accelerated the moment and time and also the future. He has basically shortened the time for the sake of the elect. May the Lord bless you. And there is another part to this. So pay close attention and listen to the next thing that is coming on the earth. May the Lord richly bless you. And remember, see you next on my Catch and Go telecast. And don't forget, tell your friends about Catch and Go and let them know that they need to hear what the Lord's servant is saying concerning what's happening on the earth and what you need to do in this global crash that we're basically in. The Lord bless you.